Welcome back to my channel for my review of a truly extraordinary new lens. And I'm talking here about the Nikon C Plena, which is a 135mm lens, widest open f1.8. It's calculated for full frame sensors. I've shot this lens on my Nikon C8 here, and oh yes, some people will say, what? Math has a C8 and never came back to us with an ordinary review on that camera. Well guys, that's in the making. I will come back with it. I had so many things in the pipeline. And I will do a detailed comparison between the new Nikon C8 and the Nikon C9, which you saw many times on my channel. And there are also a couple of other videos coming where I did shoot that new C8. But this video is all about the 135mm Plena. As I said, an extraordinary lens for portraits, but also for compressed landscape photography. Let's kick off the video. Let's start with the design of the lens, and that engraving here, Plena, reminds me a lot in my beloved 58mm Noct lens from Nikon, which also has an engraving in yellow or amber as this one here. And 135mm truly is a portrait lens for focal length reasons, and widest open f1.8 also means we will have a fantastic background blurriness, as you will see later in the images. It is a heavy lens, so the weight is 995 grams or almost 1 kilogram, and it fits perfectly on the Nikon C8. You see here, that's the C8. It fits perfectly on that camera body. It's a balanced lens camera combo here. I like it a lot, and shooting it was a pleasure. There are certain elements on the lens we know from other Nikon C lenses. Here is a function button which can be customized in the menu. Here's another one. Here's the manual switch between autofocus, and this is manual focus, back to autofocus. We have here a customizable control ring, which for instance could steer the aperture if you wanted it to do that. We have here a buttery smooth focus ring, absolutely no noise, super silent. And we have here, that looks like a control ring, but it's not. It's actually a grip. You can firmly hold the camera at the front end on the lens and nicely shoot without that it slips away out of your hands. So that is really a nicely constructed lens. It's a full metal construction here, but it is heavy, as I said, which is not astonishing if you have a fast lens with f1.8 and a focal length of 135mm. Autofocus on the Nikon C8 in combination with that Plena lens is absolutely brilliant. Watch what happens if I touch the shutter button here. Boom! It goes directly to the eyes of my model Jennifer, and that's not even a real human being here on my table. Look at that. Every time I touch the shutter button, it jumps directly onto the eye. And I had not a single miss in all my shots over the weekend with that camera lens combo, because the autofocus system of the C8 is still improved compared to what you have on the C9. There is more machine learning going on. It's the most modern Nikon camera in the lineup of digital cameras with full frame sensor. And that lens, of course, just works like a charm on that camera body. Have a look again, just very quickly, touching the shutter button, boom, goes directly to the eye of Jennifer. Absolutely fantastic. If you purchase that lens and want to have that autofocus experience I'm demonstrating here, make sure you are continuous autofocus, and you also have here 3D tracking, as you can see in the eye menu. That's absolutely essential, but then it works like a charm. Look at that. Absolutely perfect. Let's quickly collect a few more data points on that lens. So first of all, we have here a maximum reproduction ratio of 0.2 times. That means this lens is also good for close-ups. And that is something people appreciate. If you are walking around with a tele lens, you also want to be able to catch an image of a bee or a bug or a butterfly, what have you, and 0.2 times will give you a close-up type situation. We have here 16 lens elements in 14 lens groups, and we have 11 diaphragm blades. We have aneocoat, so that's a coating, and we have 4 ED glass elements, so we have 1 aspherical element, and all kinds of different features. The optical construction of that lens is of super high value, and the images speak for themselves. Last data point on the lens I want to share is the filter thread. So the filter thread is 82mm, and if you want to shoot this with neutral density filters or pole filters, you better have some money in your pocket, because if you want a high quality filters, that will cost you a couple of $100s. Well, and then unfortunately purchasing that lens will burn quite a hole in your wallet. So the recommended sales price according to Nikon is $2,500. Maybe at B&H you get it a bit cheaper, and of course you pay for that quality here. But I can tell you it's worth the price. If you are in portrait photography, in fashion, you know, then this is a lens you definitely want to have and shoot on the Nikon C8, because that camera lens combo is absolutely brilliant. Now let's go into sample images, and then I will conclude the video. You already saw in the little clip I just played that this lens is incredibly sharp and has a fantastic background bokeh. I just want to point out a few more things here and even more demonstrate these two features. So first of all, if I crop in here by 100%, you see how brilliantly sharp this is. This is absolutely amazing, and this was shot widest open at f1.8 and at an ISO of 4000. As I said, I need to come back with a review of the Nikon C8 anyway. I think people expect this from me since I have a lot of Nikon videos on my channel, and the Nikon C8 is just absolutely terrific when it comes to noise behavior, autofocus, sharpness, and all of that, if the lens is sharp, of course. And the Plena 135mm is an absolutely sharp, brilliant lens. Here an example which was shot on the street, and you see the background lines here. And the background here is Bahnhofstraße in Zurich, which is the most famous street where people can walk, the tram is driving. And you see here that background bokeh is just buttery smooth. It looks so good and so pleasant. And again, this was shot now, stopped down a little bit from f1.8 to f2.0, but you see how brilliantly sharp this is. This is absolutely amazing. And as I said before, if you're a photographer who is in portrait photography or fashion people, this is a lens you definitely want to have in your photo bag and want to shoot on the Nikon C8. Absolutely nice. Here an example in landscape mode now, before we saw portrait mode. And again, you see this is a buttery smooth bokeh here. This was shot even at an ISO of 7200 and again at f2.0. This lens, the Plena, is made to be shot wide open, if not widest open. I come to another image in a moment. And if you look at that, this looks really good. Of course, I post-processed the image, and Lightroom has now this new AI feature for noise reduction, and that handles easily with the Nikon C8 images an ISO of 7200. Looks really good. And again, the autofocus, I never missed a shot. It's always brilliantly sitting on the eyes, exactly what you want for a portrait. Just very cool. Here another image, this time again shot widest open at f1.8. You need to shoot this lens wide open or widest open because it will nail the autofocus exactly on the eye. Look at that here. And you see the right hand side eye is blurry, the left hand side eye where the eye autofocus was finding focus is perfectly sharp. And for photo models typically this lens reveals sometimes even more details than what the model likes. And what you see here nicely, and that's a good feature of course, the structure of the lips, a little bit of the teeth here, very nice. But you also see everything that is not perfect on the skin. So if you do a professional fashion shooting, you might want to apply some skin smoothing later on in order to make the image presented in a way that your photo model really likes it. But here again, super sharp, absolutely nothing to complain. All the details are there. I like a lot what I see here. The last image I want to show is this one here. And again, if I zoom in where the focus was sitting, this is absolutely fantastic. So this lens is something, if you are a Nikon shooter, the C8, the C9, go for it. You will not regret having spent this 2,500 bucks I mentioned before. This lens is a must-have for everyone in portrait photography, but also in compressed landscape. If you want to get the different layers in the depth of the image closer together, this lens will deliver no matter what you use it for. Alright, I hope these sample images convince you that this is an absolutely fantastic combo here, the Nikon C8 with the Plena 135mm for fashion and portraits. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me a thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel, there's always more to come. Thanks for watching, stay safe and healthy, and of course, peace out.